This is a video about reasons for the economic boom that preceded the Great Depression, compared to what our country probably should have done to prevent such a horrific event. So, ultimately, prior to the Great Depression, our economy was booming at a massive rate. And it was kind of a line like this. Until suddenly the stock market crashed and everything went downhill, reaching our country's lowest economic point in history, the Great Depression. So, how do we explain this massive growth? We use a phrase called Lackpants, and each letter stands for a major reason why the growth occurred. So L stands for laissez-faire, which ultimately means let them do as they will, meaning the government had very little influence economically over the people and their spending, and it was a common policy among Republican presidents. Next, there was a huge growth in assembly lines, in the production of new technologies such as cars, and this offered jobs to many people. Also, for the first time, there is credit, meaning you could buy something that you didn't necessarily have the money for and pay it back later. There's also an increase in knowledge, and this just helped the country succeed more and do better, and just it added to its growth. A key thing too was the United States position in the world. Ultimately, we were a world leader in industrialization. So, you can say at that time our country was on top of the world. Also, the economy, there was increased advertising. Like, there was just so many new products and people were buying and buying and buying. So there's also new consumer goods, such as radios and refrigerators, and just a wealth of new technologies. Also, a key thing was tariffs. Meaning most goods were bought in the U.S. were produced in the U.S. This was an easy way to protect American industry, and there was high taxes for imported goods. And lastly, the S stands for shared confidence, meaning no one was worried about the economy falling. It was just growing. How could you be worried about losing your money? How could you be worried about credit turning into debt, or all these assembly lines causing you to lose your job, and the government not being able to help you very much because of the way it's not affecting you right now? However, you can only grow so long before you reach this point. And all of a sudden, all the people who have credit are suddenly in debt. All the people who had stocks have nothing. People can't buy anything, so what's the point of having advertisements? You don't need to produce anything very much, so people are losing their jobs because they can't work on assembly lines. And the government has no way to really figure out how to help you. So, how do we prevent something like this from happening? Well, first of all, we do not want such a skyrocketing type of economy growth. We want a regulation to keep this at a straighter line. So there will be government regulation for like buying stocks and of banks so that banks don't go bankrupt and people lose all their savings. Now we have government help in times like this, such as Social Security, so that if people are laid off or like are handicapped or can't retire, they're there to help them, so they're not just going to be on the street. There's also, we're more knowledgeable about boom and bust cycles. Even though knowledge grew in the major economic boom, we're more knowledgeable about how that growth can be harmful.
So ultimately, how we prevent detrimental economic growth is by regulating economic growth. And we do this by relying on the power of the government. With the help of the power of the government, ways in which we can limit economic growth, as well as help it, is by first increasing knowledge to the people. This educates people about debts and stocks so that people know what they're putting their money into. They're not just spending it thinking that they'll get it back in return or be able to pay it back right away. And as mentioned before, government aid helps tremendously in times if there ever is like a recession or a depression where you need to help those people who are out of a job or need to retire, and this opens up jobs for other people. The government also prevents spending of people. They can do this by limiting stocks, limit margin spending, such as like using credit, spending money you don't have. Maybe higher taxes to the wealthy so that the wealthy can't just buy everything they want. They still have to give a good amount of money to the government, and this provides a healthy influx of money to the government, so if there ever is a time where you need money for the country, you have it. And another thing is laws to prevent bankruptcy and bank regulation so that innocent people that put their money in the bank don't suddenly lose it when banks go bankrupt. So yeah, that's basically it. But things to be wary of are of misleading the public. For example, if you tell people like, oh my gosh, we're growing at a too fast of a rate in terms of our economy, like we need to stop this, everyone could stop spending and that would cause a major economic downfall. So that's the end, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.